Hey guys, this is Dardamus with Dardamus Dominions. I'm in with a new phase, Toolbox. How are you doing, dude?
Hey, man.
I'm in with RCK. How are you doing?
Good, good.
And Gedlov, you're joining us again.
Yes, I am. How's it going?
So I've got one more turn file before it's all said and done, and then what we're going to do is we're going to move into, Gazlov just sent me some of his turn files. I'm going to get a couple from Grippa, and try to get some from the other ones, but this is going to be our last Omniscience turn. And it's definitely an interesting one to end on, and I'm probably going to have to talk to Juman or Joe Brandon as well. So we have 3 messages from Pan. Gazlov, do you want to read me both TLDRs?
Sure. First one is Helheim to War Maverny. Second one is Ubar buys land stolen by Indies.
Okay, so Gazlov, with the Ubar buying land stolen from Indies, I mean, do you, if you lose any territory, how often do you actually sell your territory to other players?
I try not to sell territory unless there is strategic value in having a complacent neighbor. Generally, when I sell territory, it's with the understanding that we're not going to fight over it.
What's interesting is he did 2 turns worth of income. I think we talked about this last time with, how much do you sell a province for, but it's kind of like the idea of the worth of a gem. The question people always come on to the forums is how much do you buy a gem for? If somebody offers like a fire gem, how much gold is that worth? And it's I don't think that there is any standard for it other than the transmuting kind. RCK, do you know the transmuting kind, the spell for that?
No, but I've casted it before. I don't. It's not distilled gold. It's Where is it? That one? I can't remember. I know it's a fire spell.
It's a transmute fire?
10?
Do you know which is it enchantment?
It's fairly low level.
Alteration. Okay, yeah, I thought it was alteration.
It was alteration. Okay. Oh, there it is. So like 20 gold. But I don't know about you guys, but I would absolutely pay more than 20 gold per gem.
Well, at the same time, you have to think what made you're doing it with, because it might be worth depends on how high you have on your pretender. Because I mean, if you have a fire 6 pretender and you're getting 60 gold per fire gem, it might be worth it, especially if you have something like the global up that gives you 20 a turn.
Yeah, that's what Vish was using the chicken in Lucid's game where he was Lanka and turning these things into something like 70 gold or something ridiculous per fire gem. But yeah, it's interesting to see how from player to player you see different things, like how much a gem is worth. Like I would never ever sell gems. Have you sold gems before, Gaslov?
Oh yeah, I'll sell them, and I like to try to get about 25 to 30 gold a gem.
What about you, RCK? Have you ever sold a gem?
I have lots of selling and lots of trading depending on what I'm needing.
Do you sell them, like how much do you usually sell them for gold wise?
Usually around 20. I'll try to get more, but most people will try to trade them around 20-ish.
Okay.
But usually whenever I'm trading, I'll trade for gem usually.
A toolbox, what about you? Have you ever sold gems before?
Gems for money, right? No, I haven't, but that's because I haven't come across a situation like that. It's just, I mean,
me
Jin
too.
gets better and Jin gets better and better in the late game, but in the early game, well, you need money, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
I guess the price kind of changes as the game goes on, sort of.
Now on that subject with buying and selling things and having a different price, when you sell items in a game, whether it be a hammer or a booster or just a plain vine shield, Do you put a surcharge on that at all, Toolbox? Is there any different? Like, how much do you normally sell items for?
Depends on how much they want them.
Can you give me
It
an
really is.
example?
Well, if a nation can't forge a dwarven hammer, then they're gonna have to pay more for it, right?
Like when you're saying more, are you talking like a couple
Well,
gems or doubling
they're
or?
gonna get. Well, I know that they're gonna get a very long mileage out of that hammer, so they're probably gonna pay more for it, right? So you can charge them more, and they'll be happy to pay more as well.
What about you guys, Lob? Do you have anything that you usually put a surcharge on or that you put an unusual price on?
No, I usually ask for 3 more gems
Is
for
it
the maple turn. That's generally my price. And then if I happen to have a dwarven hammer, which I usually do, I mean that's my profit. That doesn't go to them. You know, I'm not trying to save the customer any money there. I'm trying to increase my profit margin.
That's fair enough. What about boosters? Have you ever told anybody no, I'm not giving you something because it's a booster? Yes.
I haven't. No.
RCK, what about you and items? What's your selling strategy or ideas?
So usually it depends on who I'm selling it to. Like if it's Gazlov and I know him, it probably costs him more. But if it's Toolbox, I'll just give it to him. I'm kidding. But
I
I've
like
played a
your
couple.
RTK.
Now I've played a couple games, Gazlov. I mean, it probably cost a couple, maybe 2 or 3 gems more, probably like he said. Very rarely would I ever sell them like for the amount that I spend to make them. Um, and normally I try not to sell boosters unless I absolutely don't need it. Because I mean, at that point they might be able to compete with you with having a global up or something, depending especially on how easily your nation is to make that booster. Because usually when you can make a booster, you're usually going for globals that are in those paths. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think that I would stay away from boosters, especially unless I figured out somebody, with 1 or 2 paths, and trying to just kind of boost up to items or something like that. Coming to mind is what are the Ivy? What's the nature booster? The low level one.
Thistle Mace.
Yeah, thistle
Written by
maces are really.
Bracelet.
Because if you give a person a thistle mace, they can put it on an N1, make their own thistle maces. They're not trying for globals, but if you have somebody who's trying to get a fire booster, you know what they're going for.
I want customers that keep coming back.
It's fair enough too.
I don't think I've ever had anyone ask me for a path booster. They usually ask for things like dwarven hammers. That's the
Yeah,
biggest
that is
selling
true.
item.
That's true.
I've asked for thistle maces a couple times because I like getting them onto and be able to make my own. And normally I'm upfront with it, just be like, look, I'll pay you top notch for it, pay 5 gems extra just for it. Just because once I have one, I can make as many as I want to, and it's not game changing, but it definitely helps a whole lot. And you normally have somebody with an N2 that's just like, oh, 5 nature gems, and they'll jump on it. So,
I mean, for me though, it's not about getting extra few gems or getting few less gems. It's about the state of diplomacy at the time. And sometimes you might want to help that player out, and sometimes you just don't want to trade with them at all. So, yeah.
When I design my pretender, I keep what types of things what kind of boosters he can craft in mind. So I think that's one of the reasons why I don't get a lot of requests for booster items, because I think a lot of people do that. They design their pretender to make up for that weakness that their nation has.
what do you do if your pretenders turn 36 though, imprisoned?
I find other priorities.
Fair enough. Okay, well, let's move in. Pangea has said, like you said, Helheim's going to war with Barverni, which is interesting enough because we see that actually happening. Okay, this is probably something that really interesting. He says, from my cap, RCK, can you read this middle part right here? Because I think it is kind of a TLDR.
Yep. From my cap 77 to Ubar's Wasteland requires 21 map move. From my Providence to 23, it also takes 21 map move. A stealth group in 34 will require 22 map move to hit Ubar's cap. The rows are also significant in making those ones possible and quite common for provinces who require 21 map move. So I assume that his white
If-
centaurs are able to move 21 in one turn.
Now, I wanted you to read that part first because the first part kind of clarifies why that 21 or 22 is such a big deal. So, RCK, can you read that top part real quick?
Oh, they have 20 base movement. Okay.
But yeah,
Okay,
just
so
keep reading.
forest survival to eliminate any forest movement penalties and further benefit from stealth, reducing movement costs through enemy territory. The Bliss increases their map move to 22 and eliminates cold scales movement penalties. So with that said, some interesting calculations. Okay. So you
This is
can make all that.
This is one of the interesting things about Pan's build. I know that there were a couple movement-based blesses in this game, and sadly, I think Marverni was one of them, and we're not gonna. I don't think that we might not see that because we're turn 12. So, but he says he can get to Ubar's cap much easier because of his bless, which is really kind of interesting. How much do you prioritize movement in your game? I mean, as a player on Toolbox, because you're kind of the new face here, do you prefer nations with a lot more mobility, or do you prefer nations that are not, like, you just don't care?
Mobility is so much better. It's play as MAO and you realize mobility is very, very important.
It's one of those things. I like my super combatants to go fast, but I love my MA Ulm troops too. So
Yeah, it's life.
okay, so let's move on to the next one. Another one. Oh no, this one's from Helheim. Toolbox, can you read the TLDR for me?
Mavani didn't go for the province he said he'd look. Failed attempt to dwindle his army there, attacking next turn. Nap with Arco.
Okay, so we have a nap between Arco and Pan, and sadly, both players are not here today. So it looks like you guys remember where he said, or okay, so this is Helheim. Okay, no, Helheim is Schumann. Okay, so Schumann is going to, or is going to peace with Arco, and he's going to war with Marverni. And he thinks it's going to be the same turn that you attack, Aslov. Did you talk with him about this?
I did, but I don't remember telling him that I was attacking this turn because I needed to get this throne first so I can get my Dominion spreading and just kind of get it out of the way and forted. So I wasn't quite ready, but I think I'm on my way.
What I really like about these Omniscience games is that I can actually see where the diplomacy went wrong, either by design or by just how things panned out. So okay, so Yomi does their attack, and this is a bunch of free spawn, isn't it? Let's go over
So.
Let's go over these free spawn real quick. Gazlov, how well do you know the Yomi free spawn?
I don't know them that well except fighting them.
Okay.
So to me, it's all just a bunch of random crap.
Toolbox, have you played Yomi at all?
Yes, I have.
Okay, can you explain these dudes to me?
No. Basically, they're all demons, and some of the crappier ones are size 1s, but you can get size 4 ones as well. But there's so many different ones. They're usually undisciplined, but I don't think they're all undisciplined, right? Correct me on that one.
I think these are your good ones, but yeah, even these ones are are undisciplined as well. There are some better ones that are like they're sacred.
Yeah.
What did you use your Yomi chaff for? Did you actually use them for armies?
It was a blitz game, and I just threw everything in there essentially. Yeah.
I do think
Usually,
if you take different scales, you get different chaff.
Yeah, I had to take cold scales with in my game because I was disciple with Niflheim, and that did not go very well. So
oh
one
no.
one interesting thing is that against this elephant, I think that he would have lost without the chaff because the elephants would have just eaten his Dione alive. Because of the chaff, his Dione is given time to make the elephant's route. However,
Oh.
interestingly enough, speaking of routing, in the real game he actually lost. I might be back to where these things are accurate again. What have you seen Yomi's chaff? How are they used, Gaslov? Are they normally used as a main part of the army in the fights that you've done? Because you've done a lot of EA.
Yeah, and they are pretty good. The size 1 guys, they take a bless, or I'm sorry, not a bless. They take a buff like Strength of Giants really well, and they can really chop things up. And they're also a pain to cut through because they turn into ethereal guys once you kill them once.
Yeah, size 11, 23 damage attack is nothing to cough at. And interestingly enough, they have this chaos power as well. What does chaos power increase? Do you know, Gaslov?
Yeah, I think it's strength, defense, attack.
Is it just those 3? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's those 3, but I could be wrong.
I guess we could probably come here and check and hope that it actually has. Wonder if they've actually got anything. I know it's okay. So +2 strength and attack as well. So these guys are 13 attack, 25 damage. I mean, that's getting to the point where you
maybe
can
combat speed.
Combat speed. Yeah, you're right. It is combat speed as
Ooh,
well.
okay.
wow.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay,
Didn't
yeah,
know
I
that.
think that's it.
So absolutely something that you want. Okay. Get my hotkeys going. Okay, so let's go into the first battle against Marverni. Nothing really huge. Second one is again, Machaka is interesting interesting blob. Spider Riders to Great Spiders. Toolbox, have you played as Machaka, or do you know much about Machaka at all?
No.
Okay,
No.
let's
I
go.
played against Machaka, but that's about it.
These great spiders, Gaslov, do you know how these great spiders work?
Yeah, they're pretty good. I like them a lot. They get in, they attack things. Do the riders web? I'm not sure if the riders can web or not. Oh, well.
Yep.
Yeah, they both can web. Now, it
Okay.
just like, do they get their riders back? Because these
I'm
guys
not sure
turned
about
into
Machaka.
spider riders. That'll be
You had to
interesting
take
to see.
them to a castle? I can't remember.
That'll be interesting to see. Yeah, that's what I'm kind
So
of curious
I know
about.
some nations like Raga do, if they make it back to their lab or fort or something like that. I don't know.
I believe
Okay.
M.A. Machaka's sacreds do the black spiders that they have. I think if you take those back to the capital or a castle, I think they do remount. But
Wasn't there something really interesting with the with where you could with the new Twiceborn mechanics with those sacreds? Wasn't there something to that extent where you could get them dismounted or something like that?
Is there a little exploit that
Yeah,
you're letting out?
I think the Machaka had an exploit back. I think they patched it though. It was something interesting. I was wondering if you guys knew it, but okay. So the last one, oh my goodness, we actually had a bit of a bump here. Okay, Marverni, a Marverni bunch here. I'm wondering if he has his tattoos up and going. My
I feel
guess
like
is
that was an intentional bump on the
So what do
Helheim
we got
side.
on each side? Yeah, what do we got on each side?
okay. So over here we've got a bunch of Iponi Knights, and a bunch of these Marverni noble warriors, which I mean they're that to kill an elf. Gazlov, what do you think?
So what he's doing here is he's sending his high defense units up front, followed behind by his low armor
No, Caroline would eat that alive.
infantry. But that's not going to work against Helheim.
Especially when they just go around and murder your leaders.
Oh, ouch.
I
Did he
think
get
you're.
them all?
Definitely. Huh?
I think
No,
you're.
he's good.
Okay, let's see. Commander's a C. Oh, you're right. There is another Marverni chieftain somewhere in the bunch. Oh, it's right here. No, it's not. Okay. Yeah, it's somewhere around here. There's another Marverni chieftain. So of interest, these are his sacreds as well, but they are not blessed. I don't know what's going on here because it's a really interesting group of guys. I don't think that this was I think this was a surprise.
Yeah. Because Truman wanted to fight Marverni in that message earlier. I guess this is his attack here. So I doubt Marverni was really ready for this battle.
Of note,
What?
he does not have he doesn't trace to the desert, so he's out that 8 income.
Oh no. But hey, so was that previously independent that Marverni hit? Can we go back to the? You just hit C over that to see what kind of battles were over.
Yeah, it was.
I don't think.
He said he was going to attack 2 provinces.
I think Marverni was moving back.
Oh, okay. He was done expanding, and he was getting his guys back up there. Okay.
I'm just really interested because if he would have attacked here, if he would have attacked this province and this province, he would have knocked out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 provinces worth of income, plus the 2 that he took. So it'd only be half province from this one because of it being the cap. But that might have ended it right there because the economy hit. I mean, no, Marverni does have a lot more. How often do you raid, Getzov, how often do you raid in order to cut off income?
Oh, that's something I always consider. I try to split an empire in half as fast as I can.
Toolbox, what is your first goal when you're going to war with an enemy? Is it for their cap? Is it to cut off income? Is it just to raid? What are your goals as you know in your first war?
Well, the very most important thing in the first war is not to take any losses. And the second most thing is finish the war as quickly as possible. And the best way I think is to take as many provinces at a time, and then have the main army going for the capital. Then you should be able to win the war very quickly if they don't fight back or raid at the same time or do anything essentially.
Is there ever a reason that you would not go straight for the capital in your first war?
It depends on where their army is going.
The big thing I think is the capital PD seems to be a big deal. How scared are you of cap PD, Gasoff?
Not as much as other people, it seems, because I don't think the 25 province defense is much of a challenge for most, even just sneaky troops. I mean, you can send an equal number of a lot of sneaky units and take out the PD just fine. And a single turn of someone losing their capital is devastating.
Yeah, I think
I agree.
And not only devastating economically and troop building, but more like the morale also seems to take a hit as well. I mean, I've seen people go AI just because their cap got taken for 1 turn. Okay, so let's move on to I think that might be it for the turn, and I think this is the last battle that we get to see for Omniscience. Go figure, just as things started to get good. So,
well, I do want to make a comment about what Helheim is doing here.
Please do.
Because of the diplomacy he had with me, I don't think his intention was to economically destroy Maverni, but to try to grab as much territory for himself as he could before I entered the war.
What's interesting
So-
is I think this group could come over and take this province. And if you take these two, instead of getting 64 for the turn, you could get, a lot more. It's like 120. So you almost double your income. I don't think that I agree with this, especially as an elf. I don't think that you should be doing border skirmishes. I don't think I agree with this, but maybe he had another plan. What do you think, Eslov?
Well, look how far. I know his troops move fast, but he is pretty far from his cap. And I think he didn't have enough time to kind of sneak in to Maverni's borders to really just grab key provinces. I think he's just trying to grab as much as he can, as fast as he can, as soon as he can. And those may have just been convenient provinces for him.
Do you guys remember how to put the movement? How much movement is on each province?
Control M.
Oh, control
Control
M.
M.
Thank you. Okay, so for us it's 24, and that's with no friendly movement. I'm assuming. I mean, these guys still move 24 as it is. Yeah, so he could have made it from here to here in one turn.
No, because those were Maverni's territories.
No, these we're looking from an unfriendly perspective. So this is us.
Oh,
This
okay.
is us moving here. So yeah, these are all unfriendly. So all three of them are unfriendly. I think that it's 4, 8 plus 2 unfriendlies would turn it into 12 if I'm correct. But yeah, I don't know. Just really interesting. I don't know if I would agree with his, but at the same time, he might have had other goals in mind as well. Because
I mean, after
interestingly
that, I'm
enough,
sure. I said after that, I'm sure he's just going to jump on that castle right there with the 2 armies that he has to try to shore that up. If not, try to take that swampland. But at that point, I mean, he's already cut off those other 2. That man, he can just take that later since he knows Pangea is not at war with him.
I guess it's an interesting. Also, another question, RCK. How often do you leave provinces behind, knowing they might be vultured? Are you ever worried about provinces being vultured?
Depends on who I'm playing. Also depends on who is neighboring the nation that I'm attacking as well. Because a lot of it is keeping up with all of your neighbors and who's at war with who. Because normally, if their neighbor is at war with somebody else, I doubt they're going to be able to bring troops over to quickly take those provinces. I mean, and that's especially for the nation that we're playing here, being Helheim. That's nothing for a group of 5 Hellherdings to go over there and take it.
Yeah, you might accidentally bump it as well, which would be really interesting. I mean, I'm looking at Pan right here, and Pan could very easily go from here to here. And what's interesting is that I could also see Nosy knows Joe Brandon well enough that Joe Brandon might be thinking this is the end. Just go ahead and Vulture, and Nosy could come in and take that just as an agreement. Do you that's kind of interesting. Do you ever tell somebody, "Hey, I'm done. Go take some of my territory"? RCK, what do you do?
Depends if I have a nap with them already and how the war is going. Like if I've already lost everything and lost my cap already, I'll be like, okay, go ahead and take it so they don't get it pretty much. If it's just 3 undefended territories that don't have anything worth anything on them, I might try to go ahead and tell somebody grab it before the person that kills me gets it.
Toolbox, what's your diplomacy like when you know you've lost?
Yeah, I would fight to the bitter end with the guy that I started the war with. I probably wouldn't care less about anything else. So
How about your previous, like, if you've got a couple territories on the fringe near somebody that you have a nap with, and they come to you and say, "Hey, do you mind if I take them now that you're dead?" Are you going to hold on to those fringe ones and like, no, we've got a nap, or do you release the people from their naps?
I mean, your life is over, right? You tend to be more generous when you don't have anything. So, what's the point in fighting for? You're not gonna win the game.
I do really like the arguments that come out of the whole idea of death packages and what you're doing in the end game, because it really does show just how like recently I've been playing a lot of Total War, and
Oh.
Total War you're normally playing by yourself, like in the campaign, and the diplomacy is very different than what you'd expect. And just like Civilization, you're playing against a computer, and one of the big things that moves from these other games to Dominions is how Dominions doesn't have a diplomacy. There's no diplomacy. The AI doesn't. The AI looks. Do they control any territories, or have they ever controlled any territories that we once controlled? In Dominions, the AI and even players all seem to have this very ambiguous type of diplomacy. And one of the things that's really interesting is that death package, because it can change a game. I mean, if you got a guy with 80, 90 gems in a death package, I mean, it can throw the game in one way or another. Gathoff, what's your thoughts on death packaging?
I mean, it's your prerogative. I mean, it's your stuff. You definitely should be allowed to give it to whoever you want. Now, my thing is, I kind of like how they designed the diplomacy in this game, as in they didn't, because players never play a game how the developer thinks they're going to. And
Yeah.
the problem with giving the AI diplomacy ability is it just introduces an exploit, something that players can take advantage of. And they do. If you ever watch Legend of Total War, for instance, he totally knows how to rip off the AI.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of one of the interesting things. Like, it's just Dominion's diplomacy is so unique in that there is none, that there are no rules. I do kind of wish they could that you could offer like agreements in that it could be accepted by both sides, not knowing what the agreement was. So it could be a nap 3, it could be, hey, we both agree that the color red is awesome. But it would be nice to have just something that we could agree with on both sides so that you could see that there was an agreement, but nothing to actually hold that agreement together. No malices, no negative thing, just something in game like that. But it is kind of interesting how diplomacy has evolved. Toolbox, what's that say?
Have you ever heard of the game Endless Legend?
Oh, dude, it's my number 1 game on Steam. I played it more than any other game. I absolutely love it.
I love that game. But when we would play multiplayer on that, and something people would do is if somebody went AI, some random player went AI, you could rob the AI of everything. Especially if there were the Forgotten in the game, for example. The Forgotten couldn't evaluate technology. They didn't properly understand the price and their trade, and so you could buy all their stuff for cheap.
Okay. Yeah, that's one thing I think that Civ got rid of. I think Civ got rid of trading technologies because of the I mean, you'd get one technology that everybody else didn't, and you would take that technology and you would try to get other technologies that other people didn't have, and pretty soon you would go from the lowest technological person to the highest just because you got that technology that allowed you to trade technologies.
Yeah. So, like, as the Civ jumped up the version, what do you call it? Moved from version like 3 to 4, tech trading became a lot harder and harder. I haven't played the
Yes.
recent version of Civ, but
Yeah, I
used to
haven't
play
played it either.
Yeah, so I'm pretty outdated. I used to play Civ 4 a lot. So
Yeah, we played Civ. I played Civ 3 and 4 where we played co-op multiplayer. But
yeah,
it's one of those things that I mean, again, I thought what's interesting is that I didn't actually know about the Endless Legend exploit because I only played single player. But when you add another player, instantly you bounce off each other, you get these other ideas from each other, and you start playing better and you start playing differently.
Yeah, especially with Endless Legend, the multiplayer atmosphere, especially at the top level, is who knows all the little tricks and little exploits. And there are a lot in Endless Legend that you would be very surprised to learn about.
And I think that's what's interesting is that even within our, Dominions communities, there are, I want to say that offhand, I can think of about 4 or 5 different ecosystems of Dominions players. And within those ecosystems, there are different metas, there's different ideas, there's different even diplomacy. What we were talking about, where the diplomacy changes from one group to another, where something might be acceptable one place would be faux pas other places. So it's just kind of interesting how you get this get the diversity of players. Toolbox, where do you usually play your games? Which groups do you usually play with?
I used to play with my friends. Then I decided not to and play with randoms. It's mainly because diplomacy. There is no diplomacy if you play with friends so much. So
Did you
whereas
guys
if you
play
play
against each other, or how did
yeah,
that go?
we played against each other, but like we didn't play a build where we killed someone very quickly. Whereas if you play in Lucid's tournaments, that is pretty rapid. That is something that you have to be very wary of.
I'm watching one of the games, and I think that the first player was out in like 11 turns or something absurd like that.
Well, it was because he was Miquelin, and it's a very common problem with Miquelin is people won't blood sacrifice for their Dominion in that first year, and an event wipes them out, and that's what happened to him. I've seen this happen a whole lot of times.
What's this? Hold on, because I didn't hear this one. This is great. So somebody got Dom killed?
Yeah, that's what happened. That's what killed him.
See, I watched another game that had a turn 11, but it wasn't a Dom kill. I have heard of Dom killed around turn 20, but Mictlan is special. Do you want to go over how Mictlan can Dom kill themselves?
Well, it's because they don't spread Dominion without blood sacrificing. And so if you do not have a guy spending blood slaves to spread your Dominion, events will eventually whittle you down until you have no Dominion, and then you lose the game.
It's really interesting to me I've heard of a turn 1. You can actually have turn 1 Dom kills where you just get a bad event turn 1. It takes away your Dominion, and there's no check for that. Illwinter's kind of like, well, it's a fun story, which I kind of like. You get into a game, you push it in turn.
I didn't know that can happen. I've never seen that happen.
You need to be really careful with Mictlan on turn 1. So, okay, guys. Well, I think we're gonna call this it. And I guess the next time that you start seeing the series, you will be seeing it from the perspective of the players. So I want to thank all of my co-hosts for today. Gazloff, thanks for joining.
Thank you.
RCK, it's wonderful to have you again.
It's been fun.
Toolbox, thanks for joining us, dude. I really appreciate it.
It was great fun.
Okay, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one. Bye.